An update now on a CBS 6 Problem Solvers investigation, which we've been following for more than a year. The new property manager at the flats at Ginter Park was in court today. Our Jasmine Norwood tells us what happened there, and she's got an update on the living conditions at the apartment complex.
For more than a year, CBS 6 Problem Solvers have been working for families that live in the flats at Ginter Park. Many are still reaching out to us in desperate situations, living in deplorable conditions.
If it wasn't for the medicines, I wouldn't be alive.
Like Cheryl Brown, who tells us she's still waiting for repairs to be made to her home.
I had to call someone and get it fixed on my own. That's money out of my pocket that I did not have. Okay, but I wasn't not gonna have my door just open for anybody to come in.
Tuesday, Brown sent us these pictures saying she and her neighbors are still living with leaking, moldy ceilings. CBS 6 Problem Solvers have tried to get answers from management for months, and the city tells us they have too. After getting nowhere and seeing no plans for improvement, Tuesday the city took the property manager to court with 12 counts of failure to make necessary repairs to properties and 10 counts of unsafe structures.
Sir, do you have anything to say to the residents there currently?
The property manager refused to answer any questions on camera. Now, off camera, he did say that he's a brand new property manager for this complex. He also said that he used to work with code enforcement. But we do want to emphasize what a big deal all of this is, because for the first time, this is not just tenants taking the property managers to court. This is the city versus these property managers, something we're told that could be a beginning of a very long process. Working for you in Richmond, Jasmine Norwood, CBS 6 News.
More apartments are being condemned at the flats at Ginter Park today. The Richmond housing complex has been the center of our Problem Solvers investigations for months. Our Jasmine Norwood spoke to a woman who doesn't know where she's going to live after today.
This is what he gave me today.
Katricia Delaney now has less than 24 hours to have her family out of their home at the flats at Ginter Park. This after more orange condemned no trespassing signs were put on buildings throughout the complex on Chamberlain Avenue.
Here I am, stuck with my back up against the wall.
This really speaks to how deep these problems at the flats at Ginter Park run. For months now, we've had people calling CBS 6 Problem Solvers about not having running water, ceilings collapsing, and not having heat. At this point, because changes and repairs have not been made, the city's condemning buildings. Because legally, people cannot live in these unsafe structures. But the flip side of that is that families here are now scrambling to find a place to live. Like Delaney, a single parent who's struggling to now tell her son, who has special needs, that they essentially are homeless.
Where am I going to go tomorrow? You can't just throw us all out on the street. You have to provide us somewhere to go. It's not just me and my child. There's an 81-year-old woman who's disabled. There's a lady that's living over here with her newborn child and her 2-year-old. It's not just us. You just can't throw us out on the street. You have to provide us someplace to go.
Now, we do know that in the past, when the city's come in and condemned apartment buildings here at the flats at Ginter Park, they did work with some of the residents, try and get them vouchers and temporary housing situations. We are still working to figure out if that will be the case this time around. Working for you in Richmond, Jasmine Norwood, CBS 6 News.
More families who live at the flats at Ginter Park are seeing their apartments condemned. One woman told the CBS 6 Problem Solvers the ceiling collapsed on her head, sending her to the hospital. Today, our Jasmine Norwood confronted the property manager about all the problems at the complex.
I was going in my refrigerator.
Tuesday, while the property manager for the flats at Ginter Park was in court, being charged with a dozen counts of failure to make necessary repairs to buildings and 10 counts of unsafe structures,
I heard a crack.
this is what one of his tenants were dealing with.
And it just fell on me, and I just fell here.
Cheryl Brown's entire kitchen ceiling collapsed on her. And when she came home from the hospital, she was greeted by a condemned sign.
This is ridiculous.
Brown is one of several families at the flats now scrambling to find a place to stay. Thursday, CBS 6 Problem Solvers spotted the property manager talking with police. Mr. Humphreys, can we talk to you real quickly?
No, I don't have any comment. Thank you.
No plans for the residents that you're putting out?
Not right now. Thank you.
We then met with John Walsh, operations manager for Richmond's Department of Code Enforcement, who tells us the flats at Ginter Park are in worse condition than they were a year ago.
Quite frankly, we've just gotten to the point where we really need to start seriously looking at this thing, and we really need to start protecting the citizens of this city and from some of the really bad living conditions over there.
He says that's why the city's getting the courts involved and condemning buildings that are unsafe. This Sky 6 footage shows just some of the flats at Ginter Park. Code enforcement tells us so far 11 buildings and at least 42 units have been condemned.
We're trying to approach it from a responsible standpoint and say, how can we deal with this as quickly as possible without creating negative situations by overwhelming the system?
Meanwhile, residents pack their apartments into U-Hauls, and others struggle to find last-minute living arrangements. But Walsh tells us the city notifies the property manager 7 to 10 days before condemning buildings.
We make sure in these cases that we're letting them know, and so, you know, as far as their communication with their tenant, I can't speak to that.
Now, we have had a couple of residents tell us that they've received vouchers from the city that will help them get some temporary housing. But finding long-term housing solutions is still causing a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress for these families. We have had a couple of CBS 6 viewers reach out saying they'd like to help these families. We'll keep you updated on how all of this plays out. Working for you in Richmond, Jasmine Norwood, CBS 6 News.